So, hello, I'm Cecilia Holst, and welcome to listen to my thesis. I'm studying in Häme University of Applied Sciences, and I'm studying in the Natural Environment and Promotion of Wellbeing program. And my thesis is master thesis, and the title of my thesis is Urban Green Space Elements and Characteristics that Promote Wellbeing and Restoration. And I'm doing integrative literature review. And basically, this presentation explores the significance of urban green spaces on human well-being and restoration. Through an integrative literature review, I uncovered the key elements and characteristics that support restoration and well-being. Understanding these aspects is crucial for enhancing the design and planning of city greenery to benefit urban population. And how my presentation is going to go: first, I tell about the goals and the research questions. Then I'm going to tell a little bit about the background theory, meaning what my thesis is kind of based on. And then I'll tell some numbers about my literature review and inclusion and exclusion criteria. And in the last but not least, I'm telling my preliminary results. And I have divided them on based on the research questions. And then I'm telling shortly what's next. So my thesis started from the interest in the effect of nature and green. I did, in my bachelor degree, I did thesis based on this theory as well. And it was therapeutical garden design for a specific place. And then when I noticed this program starting, which basically is all based on this subject of greenery and well-being, I wanted to go and study it. And then I was thinking for a while what I do. And then through things, I found this European platform of urban greening program and started to do my thesis on that. So the goal of the study was to find features, elements, and characteristics that promote best human restoration and well-being. And my study research questions were: first, what are the perceived characteristics of urban green spaces that contribute to restoration and well-being? Second question was: which elements in green spaces serve the restoration and well-being of individuals in urban areas? And the third question actually came from my teachers in the school. They thought it would be interesting to see how these things are studied. So the third question is: how have the effects of green spaces on human well-being and restoration been assessed and researched? A little bit about the background theory. Basically, throughout decades, it's been found, and it's a kind of a steady theory that green and nature affects on human well-being, health, and restoration positively. There's many reasons why, or many theories why, and some of them are attention restoration theory from Kaplan and Kaplan, stress recovery theory from Ulrich, and nature connectedness, etc., depending on who you're asking. Restorativeness in my thesis, I mean back to status quo. That's what it means at least. Some people might define it different ways, but that's the basis I use. And it's part of well-being in a way. And well-being, I mean, in my thesis, refers to the complete state of physical, psychological, and social health, significantly impacted by the environment. And well-being is good when personal resources meet the challenges in life. And green spaces can affect the human in a way that the resources become better to meet the challenges in life better. And greenery and nature affects in the body in different ways, body, mind, and social. And in body, it lowers the blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol, in mind. It affects on stress reducing, mood lifting, cognitive abilities improve. And in social aspects, it betters the social cohesion and increased social activity. When we're talking about urban green spaces, we are talking about parks, pocket parks, waterfronts, private gardens, streetscapes, and wasteland that has vegetation in it, and in some cases even streets. So it doesn't only goes to the park, but it also everything in a city that has vegetation is basically green space. And general urban environment, meaning buildings and roads, etc., human-made things can be bad for human health and well-being. And urban green spaces and nature provide solution by giving positive effects on humans and society in total. For example, urban green spaces can provide shelter from sun, heat, reduction in pollution, stress levels gets lower, and also reducing noise levels. And one fact is this greenery in neighborhood have been linked to better health, cognitive skills, and less depressions in residents in the area. So it has tons of benefits for the people in the city and urban areas. And then we are going more telling about my literature review. The results without exclusion criteria were thousands and tens of thousands, meaning that, for example, when I was going to Google Scholar and I used some of the keywords that I mentioned here, they came, thousands of tens of thousands. Even when I tried to use some exclusion criteria, there were still quite many. So quite a job to find the right terms and the right words and the right criteria to find a good amount of results. What I included, the keywords. Yeah, the keywords were nature, well-being, landscape and landscape design, urban green spaces, restorative or restoration. And this was funny term because it also means to the environment. So that gave me a little bit difficulties to find the right results, because it also gave results on how to restore soil and effects, etc. And other keywords were environment, elements, characteristics, and features. Not all of them were included in the end result, but I did try to search with these ones to find out how do I get the best result. Anyways, what I did include were articles that discuss elements and characteristics that positively affect human well-being and recovery. I limited the time period on 2020 to 24, and it's only 4 years. But when I was doing test searching, I found out that, there were a lot of them, but that also the research amount per year became quite significant after 2020. So it kind of went up like this. So I decided that even if it's only 4 years, there was still quite a lot of studies. If you want, you can go and find yourself out. It's quite interesting how many and how different kind of studies that became. My bachelor thesis was in 2015, and at the time it was not difficult, but there was like decent amount of stuff. But now that I went there, it's like, oh my god, there's so many of them now. It's hard to choose and hard to find the right ones. Anyways, then I also included research that focuses on urban parks and green environments. I included natural elements and greenery. I included research that included these ones. And I also included soundscapes. It was not originally there for me, but when I was doing the research and when I was doing the literature search, I realized that it's actually quite a lot of research and a big component on this matter. What I did not include were interventions, studies that included 2 tropical plants. Funny enough, a lot of the studies are actually made in China or other Asian countries, but I excluded the ones that were more specific on the plants, and I included the ones that were more specific about the landscape type or something that can be interpreted or combined with other cultures as well. I did not include, and I know this would be interested in, and I do have the list of the studies if someone's interested, but I did not include studies located in the study campuses, even though some of the campuses probably situated in the cities, but some of the studies were only including student well-being, so that's the reason I excluded it. Studies that not answering the question, obviously, I did not include forests and other nature or like fully natural areas that did not have any urban elements. And I did not also include non-natural elements only studies, meaning I only included the ones that studied greenery, etc. And here you can see what I searched, on what terms and where. So basically I searched from Science Direct, Wiley Online, and PubMed. Those were the databases that gave me the best results. And from all of them, I included in my study 18 studies. In my school, it was guided to have 20 is okay amount. 30 is starting to be a bit too much. So I think 18 is quite good for this one. I kind of would have wanted more, but I'm trying to keep my resources. I'm trying to consider my own resources on this one. Next, we are going to my results, and I'm going to drink. So when I was going through my results, my studies, and the studies that I included in my research, the most times and the most significant ones were these 5 ones: trees, birdsong, views, biodiversity, and calmness. So here is the first question. Like I said, I'm going through this question by question. First was, what are the perceived characteristics of urban green spaces that contribute to restoration and well-being? And I divided them in 5 categories. They were sensory perception and experience, ecological attributes and biodiversity, accessibility and infrastructure, privacy, safety and security, and restorative and therapeutic qualities. In the first one, we can see there's I'm telling that these characteristics are basically answering this question, but also question what is the most. There's a lot of elements and characteristic that does either neutral or a little bit, but these ones are like to provide the most restorative effect and the most well-being. So basically areas that provide natural sounds, areas that have low sound pressure levels, noise less than 50 decibels. They are aesthetically pleasing. They provide stimulation to the senses, sometimes in all senses. Of course, when you go into a busy public park, you're not going to eat all the leaves from the plants, but there's also community gardens that might come with the taste one. But of course, there's sight, smell, touch, taste. I don't remember the fifth one. Anyways, all the 5 human senses should be included in the greenery, and they are visually variable. And the second one, it's important that the biodiversity and richness in flora and fauna. And there were quite a few studies about the biodiversity, more or less, which I found interesting. They should be, or actually there was a conversation about the natural versus formal vegetation. A couple of studies mentioned this. The more natural and the more nature-like vegetation were more restorative than the formal and cut one. The greenery was still restorative, but not as restorative as the natural one. Vegetation coverage of 90 to 100%. Again, this is also in some levels restorative, but this was like, if you want to optimize everything, this is which is quite a lot. But yeah, there's different type. There should be different levels and types of vegetation, so it should not be too monotonic. And by monotonic, I mean, like, there were studies that said something about the grass, that even though it's green and it provides still something to the human, it's still too monotonic to provide the best effect. On the third category, we're talking about there should be facilities that meet people's needs. And this was new for me, but it makes sense. And with facilities, I mean benches and resting places and even toilets. So if the green area can provide those, then the restoration level or perceived restorativeness is better. It should be easily accessible. It should be near home. There should be many of them, and they should be in short distance. The restorative aspect or well-being aspect started to lower after 1600 meters. So it still did have effect, of course. When you walk in 2 kilometers to a park, you still enjoy the park. But it comes to, like, again, if it's near home, there are many of them in short distance. Of course, there's more likely people visit them and use them more, like going to work and stuff. Then the green area should provide border between city and nature. For example, bunch of trees and shrubs that divide. If you think about New York New York Park, Central City Park, it kind of provides something like that. It gives a little bit of edge border between the park and the high buildings when there's trees around it. And it should also have views. So this was also mentioned more than once, is possibility to see the landscape further away, which gave a little bit the feeling, I guess, being away, which was part of the attention restorative theory. And as fourth category, the area should be sheltered areas, semi-open and semi-private. It should be safe and calm and resting areas. And on the fifth one, they talk about the greenhouse should provide possibility to feel being away, like I mentioned earlier. It should have quality green space, serene environment, natural environment, and open spaces. And the next question was, or my research question was, which elements in urban green spaces serve the restoration and well-being of individuals? And this is a shorter list, as you can see, because there's not that many elements that you can combine, but characteristics is combination of elements. Yeah, it would be a good way to explain it. And I've divided in 3 different ones: sensory, environmental quality and aesthetics, and flora and fauna. And as you can see, sensory and flora and fauna elements has the most spots. From sensory elements, there are water features, including sight and sound, natural sounds, breeze, birds singing, wind on trees, lighting conditions. And then the environmental one, good paths, which was new for me, that new but not surprising when I think about it. There should be good paths through the nature. It has combination of water. No, the combination of water and vegetation was the best on the restorative aspect. Water area quantity and quality affected on how restorative or well-being providing the area is. Open sky is one factor, and then natural waterfront again. And then the flora and fauna element part, the most mentioned probably in all of the studies were trees. And one study said hills and herbaceous trees. Hills with herbaceous trees, so trees again, but sort of a more specific element. Animals, forest I still count the element because it can be small or big, yeah. And vegetation, leafy, natural, variable. I still have the third question, which was, I think, the most interesting. Because when I was going through this, I found out that there were so many variables and so many differences in these studies. So what I was expecting is that all of them study in the same way, but no, not at all. So there were questionnaires, there were physical measurements or physical exams, there were literature reviews, there were on-site, there's a phone plus on-site. There were also laboratory ones, which I first thought that I'm going to exclude, but then I found out they were actually quite good ones. They were actually quite good to measure the restorativeness. And there was pictures and virtual reality and video. Excuse me. And they also studied all different kind of dimensions or aspects on the restoration well-being. All different kind of terms were used. So there were sensory dimensions, restorative potential, health restoration soundscapes, happiness, restoration in general, connected to the nature, well-being, and some even health plus well-being. And there were the greenery that were studied was urban forests, community parks, urban parks, rooftop gardens, waterfront, cemetery. There were probably other different kind of as well, but these were like the most mentioned ones. Then I'm showing, I'm not going through all this text, but I'm just showing the questionnaire studies. I'm showing that there were questions. I put these in the 3 different categories. There were questionnaire studies, so people asking either interviewing or putting a survey. There were literature reviews and meta-analysis. And then the other ones that were quite mixed, and most of these studies were kind of out of my range, but I did get the results from them. But anyways. So I tell shortly about these ones. There were quite many on-site ones, but then there was also a laboratory one with virtual reality, rooftop garden, and yes, That's it on that one. And in this one, on literature reviews and meta-analysis, were not as many as for the other two categories, but there was still a category for it. They give more a general idea about the thing or about the subject, and which were also nice because they were literature reviews that combined literature before the 2020. So in a way, there was also included information before that year through these ones. And I forgot to mention earlier, like the health restoration soundscapes, and I think there was another one on the next one. Some of the studies did not answer the first two questions, but I did answer the third question on how it's been assessed, how green spaces or what model or what criteria the area can be assessed on to find out if it's restorative or well-being or provide well-being. And on the last one, there is, like I said, quite interesting combination of things. For example, the first one, combined GIS analysis, the combined survey, then they compare objective VSK metrics and perceptions. And then in the end, they extrapolated these relationships to other locations across the entire study area to generate a perspective map of restorative potential. It's quite a mouthful. Then again, there was a smartphone app that's where people said how they feel about the place. And yeah, the survey based on the perceived sensory dimension. So this study was did not answer the first two questions, but there's a possibility to find out if the area is being restorative when if you study through this one. Again, if someone is interested, again, I can share the researchers that I included in this one. I can share them somewhere, so it's not a secret list. Exposed to 6 urban landscapes in laboratory. Yeah, so laboratory combined with naturalistic, self-reported, combined with measuring the brain waves. And then there was also computer simulated images where they measured, again, physical reactions like ECG and heart rate, combined with a couple different kind of surveys and questionnaires. And the last one is a bit more too different for me to go through it with you with expertise. Anyways, then what I did, it was not included in my study, but what I did find out as well through this was what is not restorative. So some studies beside they found beside the most restorative and the most well-being areas, they also found these things that definitely did not qualify there or even gave a negative effect on humans, and they were buildings. There's some exceptions, but the historical ones, but I think there was only one study that I found this. But there were buildings, hard paved surfaces, parking lots, heterogeneous ground cover, meaning too much happening on the ground, high volume noise, cars, humans, etc., and not including natural elements at all, and crowdness. So shortly, I continue my analysis in Finnish, and I'm going to finish my thesis on this spring. And it's, unfortunately, it's going to be in Finnish. But like I said, I can share this one or other documents that are in English if someone is interested. Thank you for listening, and this is it.